For those that are waiting, we will be going live in about 9 minutes, about 10 minutes. We're just getting everything set up, waiting for a few people to log in here. So thanks for hanging out here, or feel free to check back in a few minutes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching, we're going live in a few minutes here. We are on Zoom. If you want to join us on Zoom, be part of the conversation. We're going to have a first look at the Dwight D. Eisenhower Memorial here in about 8 minutes. So 6.5, but we're going to do a few minutes. And looks like Anthony is joining us here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We have at least one more logging in here in just a moment. Just a second here. And welcome aboard, guys. Can you hear me? Working that out. There we go, connecting the audio.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. You hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Here's
All
your
right.
daddy. I'll get you a beer. Sit down and talk to your son. How you doing, Ariane?
Doing well. Welcome aboard. So we got a couple more people logging in here. We are live streaming on Facebook and YouTube, by the way, but I have the Zoom here for those that wanted to join into the chat and the tour one-on-one. Thanks for joining us. If anybody is looking forward to wants to join into the Zoom meeting here, drop a message into the chat on either Facebook or YouTube Live, and I can send you over a link. And that way you can join in as well. So we're actually open on both platforms. But you guys ready for a brand new memorial?
Yeah.
And per your request, I have the World War II memorial coming up on October 7th. That's going to it's actually going to be all of the veterans memorials in the National Mall, so including the World War II.
Thank you.
All right, there's Gonzo. What's up, Anthony? You got audio now, Anthony? You there? Okay,
oh yeah,
cool.
I got you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. And so we may have some more. What's that? One mode. Yep. Do that. Thank you. Go. All right, so that should pop up there. Give it a second. Okay, we'll give it one more minute here before we get rolling. Let me make sure we got everything set up. Notification mode, is that working?
I'm going to go ahead and mute ours so we don't interrupt.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. There we go. There we go. Perfect. All right, guys, and thank you for everybody for joining me here, and thanks for those that are joining in firsthand. And again, if you want to join in firsthand and be part of the Zoom meeting, just feel free to drop a message here. I will send you the link. You can dial in. We're doing a free presentation tonight on the Dwight D. Eisenhower Memorial and making a special announcement about future upcoming memorial tours and history tours. And part of this is, in honesty, figuring out some of the little kinks as we're doing a new thing here. So I want to do this on Zoom so everybody can join in, but I want to make sure that I get things figured out, like how to make sure I'm the main person on the screen at all times, or how to answer questions and comments and have everybody interact. So once again, we are streaming on YouTube. We're streaming on Facebook Live. We're monitoring comments on all of these. So if you drop your comments in, we will respond. And I'll say we, my partner, Caitlin, is sitting over here as well, by the way. Chat. There we go. And there we go. All right, cool. And first of all, we are today talking about the brand new memorial, the Dwight D. Eisenhower Memorial. Just opened up last week, actually. And the Eisenhower Memorial has something that's been coming for quite a while now. He's our 34th president, and he hasn't had a memorial yet. But about 20 years ago, they started work on giving him a memorial for both the general and the president. Actually started work in 1999, and this was put forth through Congress, and just dedicated again just this week. And we're going to go through and take a look at what's inside a memorial. We're not going to have a huge history lesson today. This is not going to be as long as some of the other tours some of you may have joined, as we're looking at less than an hour here. It's not a huge memorial, but and we're not going real deep into history, but at least let everybody see it who can't make it out here to DC to visit it in person. And the Dwight D. Eisenhower Memorial, the head of the commission was Senator Pat Roberts from Kansas, but it was actually proposed by two senators, Senator Daniel Inouye and Senator Ted Stevens from Hawaii and Alaska, respectively. And it was proposed in 1999 through an act of Congress. And some of the artists we have here, your primary artist who designed the overall memorial, his name is Frank Gehry. Frank Gehry, if you're not familiar, Frank Gehry, he designs a lot of stainless steel buildings that have a lot of curves, a lot of various shapes in them, including the Disney Opera House in Los Angeles. So he's really well known for stainless steel in his works. And that was one of the key elements in his design in this memorial. And they actually tried to remove it. So there's a back and forth. Part of the reason it took years, not decades, to get this memorial completed. There was some controversy or some concerns about his design, and they actually wanted to remove the stainless steel aspects that he put in there. And Gehry pushed forward to have his key elements, what he's known for, in his memorial. He said, look, you hired me, this is what I do. And he did get that through. We'll talk a little bit about that. And if you look at the original plan, and one of the other concerns was they were talking too much about his time as a child, that being in Eisenhower in Kansas, and not enough talking about his time in World War II. And so looking at the original layout here, there's two sculpture reliefs, or in the stone reliefs, one from his time as a general, one from his time as a president, and there were stainless steel panels or tapestries going around the exterior, 3 panels, or 3 sides at least, several panels. And these all showcased his home in Abilene, Kansas, talking about the modest boy who grew up to be a general and a president. These have changed a little bit, partially because they didn't like that it focused so much on Kansas, not enough on the war, and part of it because things like these card reliefs in stone, the family and some of the people involved in the commission felt that that wasn't grand enough and not enough of a memorial. And so they went with these, but changed things into a more traditional sculpture setup on some of these, which brings us to the memorial today. And here, sorry about that. We start in the memorial with a young 14-year-old, roughly, Dwight D. Eisenhower in Kansas, overlooking his memorial. This is where you enter through, and this is the dreams and aspirations of a barefoot young man. And he's actually looking on to his speech he gave years later, 1945, at his alma mater, at his high school in Abilene, Kansas. It was a homecoming speech, one of several speeches laid out here. And as you pass through, and with Eisenhower looking forward to the life that he will lead and to the things he will become, you'll note we have the tapestry in the background here. And you'll notice that the 2 on the sides are missing. They actually removed those and went with one solid one across the back. It's not the trees, it's actually an outline of the cliffs in Normandy. So again, focusing on World War II a bit. And you'll also see, aside from the columns holding up the tapestry on the back, there are 2 columns to your left. These columns separate or split the memorial into its 2 ends, one on the presidency and starting on this side on his time as a general. Dwight D. Eisenhower was a general. He's a supreme commander of Allied expeditionary forces in World War II. He's actually one of 5 5-star generals in US history. Your first would be George Marshall. Sorry, George Marshall was your very first. He was the chief of staff of the US Army during World War II. You also have, I just went completely blank, I'm sorry. But you had, sorry, 5 5-star generals as George Marshall, Hap Arnold, Douglas MacArthur, and Omar Bradley, and the last living five-star general is General Dwight D. Eisenhower when he passed away in 1969. And that rank does not exist anymore. There's no longer a five-star general. It only existed during World War II, and it's basically one step above Field Marshal to make sure we were the highest in command in World War II. Make sure if anybody who didn't know who to listen to, you listen to us because we had the 5 stars in the circle. And here we see Dwight D. Eisenhower as a general. This is the sculptures. It actually is a depiction of him speaking to the troops. There's a very famous photo of this. This was actually on June 6, 1944 in England, just before they stormed the beaches of Normandy. This is the photo that sculpture is based off of. And there's a guy in the background here that Anthony would recognize. Anthony, would you like to chime in, talk about who that is?
Oh yeah, so that's my grandfather, know him as Mickey Garcia or Margarito Garcia. He was only 17 years old in this picture. They were in, I want to say Southern England is what he told me. So when he joined and he was 17 and Eisenhower found out, he actually called him to his office, and that's the one time he got to meet him in person before this. And he told him like, hey, you're 17, you can't join. And when he told him that he was one of the only sons left and he had a whole bunch of sisters, he needed to provide for them, Eisenhower let him stay in. It was a pretty cool little story.
That's cool. And by the way, this is the 101st Airborne. Anthony, what division did you?
I'm sorry, you cut out.
Sorry, so this is the 101st Airborne here, if your grandfather, correct? And you serve in the 82nd, is that correct?
Yeah, so he was in the 101st and I was in the 82nd. So we were the two in our family that were airborne.
And for those that haven't joined my tours before, aren't familiar here with Anthony, this is an old friend of mine. Grew up in Hobbs together in Hobbs, New Mexico, and so we both ended up in the DC area. He ended up here through the Army, and so he's continuing the legacy from his grandfather here, as it seems. And so that's him circled right there as Anthony's grandfather right there. So that was pretty cool. So there was a photo of his grandfather of Eisenhower, found out that was the actual photo. So pretty cool. We were planning on him being here anyway. So that was a very neat tie-in. And looking back further across here, behind these statues here is actually a bas relief of the storming of Normandy. These are actually the ships approaching Normandy. You can see the cliffs in the background and the cliffs in the background, the waves, and you see the ships back here and the landers. And a little close up here. So this is what a little closer look at the ships engraved into that wall. So it's actually really neat when you're looking at it, and it changes from day to night because of the way lighting works, and it's lit up from below at night. So you can see even a little bit different perspective of it and a little bit more shadows. And that'll come at some point. We'll do more the president's tours, monuments tours. I'll come back and get some photos at night. And it's actually really cool because when you're first looking at it, it's a background, so you don't exactly notice it. And you look a little closer, like, wait a minute, there's something back there. And it makes you kind of look and think and realize what it is. It's actually depicting the whole scene of storming Normandy. And on the back here, we have his speech that he gave to Parliament in 1946. This was the Heidel Hall speech. I believe is what it, oh, sorry, Guildhall Hall address in Parliament, June 12, 1945, across the back here. And from the other side, you have Eisenhower, the president, looking over towards Eisenhower, the general. So you have one looking towards the other. As we enter the president's side of the memorial, President Dwight D. Eisenhower, 34th President of the United States of America, 1953 to 1961. That was just before President Kennedy. And in fact, Richard Nixon was his vice president. And Dwight D. Eisenhower is shown here in front of his desk in the Oval Office, speaking to members of his cabinet. And behind him is an engraving of the globe. And that is meant to show how he had international reach and international ideas and views So it's to show how much he impacted not just the United States, but the entire world as president. Now, some of the notable items from Eisenhower's presidency, he desegregated Washington, D.C., actually. He signed the executive order to desegregate our city, when the last city in the country to officially desegregate. He also sent the 101st Airborne down to Little Rock, Arkansas, and federalized their National Guard to help with the desegregation process of the Little Rock Public Schools on September 24th, 1957. So the famous photo of the National Guard escorting the students to desegregate the schools in Little Rock, that was from Dwight D. Eisenhower. And on the back of the president's side, we have two speeches of President Dwight D. Eisenhower, both from Washington, D.C. On your left is his first inaugural address, and on your right is his farewell address. And Dwight D. Eisenhower's farewell address is where he famously pointed out the dangers of the military-industrial complex and how we should be wary of that in the future. And then the tapestry. This is stainless steel. Each one of these panels is made out of one single continuous thread of stainless steel. And so they actually invented essentially a 3D sewing machine for stainless steel that welds all these elements together. It takes 8 days to make one panel, and there are 246 of them. So this took years for them to produce. They actually had to invent the equipment to produce this. And it's hard to tell in the close-ups, and it changes with the time of day and the lighting. In fact, since the stainless steel reflects whatever colors are presented upon it, and so they can actually light it up in different colors, and it'll reflect in whatever color they light it up as. But it's a pen and ink drawing of the cliffs at Normandy at Point Lahawk. And you can see a little bit better from the distant view here. And so this is a more distant view, overall view of the Dwight D. Eisenhower Memorial. And this is shown during the daytime, and to show how much this changes when you switch over to nighttime. This is how it looks lit up at night. Get that a second. And I'll come back so you can look at the other way. And so once again, to your right is Eisenhower the general, and to your left is Eisenhower the president. And behind Eisenhower the president is the world map. Behind Eisenhower the general is the landing at Normandy. And behind all of that is Point Lahawk. This is the actual cliffs at Normandy. And to give you an idea of where the Eisenhower Memorial is located, this is a slightly aerial view of the location. And this is looking onto the Capitol. It is about 3 blocks from the Capitol. It's right on Capitol Hill. And every building surrounding it, they found some kind of connection to Eisenhower. Right next door is the Voice of America, our overseas propaganda radio station, actually. There's no other way of putting it. And that's because he actually moved it to that building and believed in an open communication with the rest of the world would be the best way to have diplomacy. And to your right, behind the tapestry, is actually the Department of Education. Eisenhower is the first president to give to the Department of Education. Across the street to the left is the Air and Space Museum, because Eisenhower was pivotal on the instrumental on the development of the U.S. Air Force, or the U.S. Army Air Corps at the time. And you can see the 2 lines going at an angle through the middle of a memorial. That is actually Maryland Avenue. So there was actually a road running through this before, and this was a parking lot on one side, and on the other side was actually a community garden. So this is where people who worked in the federal buildings downtown would actually grow things like tomatoes and peppers and stuff. And so that's what was here before. When they chose this location, they actually surveyed over 100 locations in Washington, D.C., and they had 21 points of comparison of how to rate them. And they actually chose another location initially next to the American Institutes of Peace over by the Lincoln Memorial, right next to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, actually. And the Eisenhower family said that they didn't want something, their memorial to share, or their grandfather's memorial actually, to share space with another memorial. So they wanted an independent location. And they wanted something that the community could use as a park as well, and to be a usable space, a living memorial, as his granddaughter put it. And so they settled on this. They voted on this in 2005 on the final location, and they voted unanimously. Like every single person on the commission voted for this location in the end. And that said, I will go back to a normal view here, and a couple of other notes on this. So this one has gone back and forth quite a bit. Memorials often do. If you have ever joined one of my tours before of the memorials or monuments in DC, you'll know I often say that every memorial in DC, except for one, is paid for by at least a majority of private donations. And then the rest of it's federal funding, except for the veterans and war memorials. Those are paid for 100% private funding. And the one that was not paid by majority private donations was actually the Jefferson Memorial, because it was built as a job building project during the Great Depression. But this one actually falls into that exception as well. They were supposed to raise $35 million in private donations, and they ended up coming up quite a bit short. Actually, the number I saw was closer to $400,000. So the federal government actually had to make up that gap there. So this is actually paid for a majority of federal funding with some private donations, but they really wanted to get this finished. And there was back and forth, as there always is, about some of the finer elements in this. We're going to talk about veterans memorials here in a couple of weeks. And one of the things with the Vietnam Veterans Memorial is the designer had to take them to court 3 times to get that pushed through, because they kept trying to change it and take away from Maya Lin's designs. Same thing happened here. So there was a big back and forth. There was a lot of fighting, but they finally got it done. And it's a beautiful memorial. It's made to last for over 100 years before they have to do any major repairs. So they tried to make sure on that. The tapestry, for instance, that was woven stainless steel, they went back by hand and checked every single weld and did any fine tuning they needed to do to make sure that once they put it up, it doesn't have to come down for 100 years. With that said, there's another purpose for this today. I am making an announcement today. I am starting Whiskey Wednesdays. First and third Wednesday of every month, I am doing tours, virtual tours like this, where you'll have the ability to dial in on Zoom and participate in the event and ask questions. And we're going to have different subjects each time. And we're working out to see if possibly we can have this live streamed rather than having paid tickets. But for now, my next one, I have it. If you go on and log in right now and get a ticket on my Eventbrite, you can actually get this log in for free before I start charging for tickets. However, I do want to note what I am drinking today for my whiskey tour is my local distillery. This is the Borough Bourbon from Republic Restoratives. And we were in talks with them. Let's see if that works. Sorry, technical difficulties. That's part of the reason we're doing this. And so I saw somebody just join on one of our live streams. So I'll put that out again. First of all, I am drinking Republic Restoratives Borough Bourbon. And we are talking with the guys, the ladies at Borough Bourbon, since it's female owned and operated, about possibly getting sponsorship so that we can run this tour continuously without having any kind of paid tickets and just live stream to make it free to you guys. So hoping for that. If not, if we do have purchase tickets, it's going to be $10 at most. So I'm going to try to keep this affordable, try to make it to where it's something that people can do on a regular basis, and just enough to, just keep it rolling for me. And so we'll be doing Whiskey Wednesdays, first and third Wednesday of each month, different subject each time. We will repeat some of the subjects in case somebody misses one, but to always keep you coming back. And the tours coming up, if you go to tourguidepakes.com or guidedtoursdc.com, and I'll post a link here in a moment, that has a list of the tours coming up where you can book online. And we'll have October 7th, we have the Veterans Memorials of the National Mall, which will include the World War II Memorial, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, the Korean War Veterans Memorial, and we have the Nurses Memorial as part of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, and the District of Columbia War Memorial. And on top of that, one that most people don't even know exists, we're going to have the Veterans Memorial for those that are disabled for life. So it's the Disabled Veterans for Life Memorial right next to the U.S. Capitol. And it's one that we typically don't cover on walking tours or street tours because it's a little off the beaten path. And it's a little hard to get to, unfortunately. But as looking through when I was putting things together for this memorials tour and the Veterans Memorial Tour, I realized there's nothing out there for it. So I'm actually even more excited to be able to present that so people can actually see the Disabled Veterans Memorial and be able to take that in because it's a beautiful memorial. And we're going to have special guests in all of these. Anthony here has been joining me on some of these tours, for instance. We'll get some other guests as well through some of these tours that are pertinent to the tour that we're doing. With those that are watching on our live streams, feel free to drop a comment in here. And let's see. Oh, got 4 on my. And if you're on my live stream on Facebook right now and you missed the presentation on Dwight D. Eisenhower Memorial, feel free to drop a comment on there. I'll be happy to go back and review things for you if you have any questions. With that said, Anthony, you have anything you want to say or any questions? Dad, Lou, I'll start with Anthony.
No, not at all, but thank you very much for bringing that up. I'm glad that my grandfather's picture with Eisenhower made your show today. It's awesome. Thank you very much.
Awesome. And just so you know, and I say that the Veterans Memorials of the National Mall because it's a small type group there on those. So because of time, that narrows it down to where I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 memorials, and I'm also going to talk about other memorials in the area and other upcoming memorials, including the Desert Storm Memorial. So look forward to that. And following that, we had a Capitol Hill guided tour on one of my other events. So we're gonna have that here for everybody to join. There'll be a Capitol Hill guided tour on the 21st, which include the U.S. Capitol building, the Supreme Court building, and the Library of Congress and their operations past and present, including how do you do research at the Library of Congress and how do you watch Congress or the Supreme Court in session and how do you access that information. Also, aside from the Veterans Memorials on the National Mall, there will be other tours coming up that will include Veterans Memorials outside the National Mall, like the Air Force Memorial, the Marine Corps War Memorial, and when we're doing those, we'll be doing divisions. So we'll also do the U.S. Army 1st Division, U.S. Army 2nd Division Memorial over by the White House. And we will have a Women's in the Military through Arlington Cemetery tour. So that's going to be its own special tour that will include the Women's in Military Service Memorial and some highlighted women in history that are at Arlington Cemetery or have been involved in Arlington National Cemetery. So that's it. Dad, Lou, you guys have any questions or comments?
Okay.
I don't have any questions.
Cool.
You're your sister.
Excellent.
Say hello to your brother.
Yep. And so I have a few people on Facebook. Don't run away yet. I'm going to go back through some of these pictures of the Eisenhower Memorial. There we go. And so going back here, so if you are just joining on Facebook, we are looking at the Dwight D. Eisenhower Memorial, just opened up last week. And it's been about 20 years in the process. This is the overview of the Eisenhower Memorial, a tapestry on your right, stainless steel, showcasing the shoreline at Normandy. And there are 2 sides here, one dedicated to Eisenhower, the general, on your right, and on your left, dedicated to Eisenhower, the president. I'm looking through nighttime and through daytime, so you can see a bit of the difference depending on lighting. And these are, aside from that, these are real photos of the Eisenhower Memorial. I actually went through and walked through myself this week. So these are actually my photos for the most part, aside from those last 3 or the first 3 as we go in reverse order. As you can see a little bit closer here, Eisenhower, the president, and sitting in the Oval Office with the engraving of the U.S. of the world behind him, showing his international reach. And Eisenhower, the general, on the opposite side, speaking to the troops in front of a bas relief of the storming of Normandy in the background here. And this is him speaking to the 101st Airborne in 1944, right before they stormed Normandy. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching on Facebook and if you have any comments or questions, drop them in the chat. We'll be watching those and happy to answer any questions. Or if you have any requests for upcoming tours, but if you have missed that, we are sorry, I'm just checking over here, making sure my comments are showing up. If you have any questions, or if you have any upcoming tours that you want to see, I'm happy to hear those. I purposely only scheduled the next 2 to make sure that I have room for more tours and for people to be flexible. And I am going to drop a link here into each of these where you can find my upcoming virtual tours. And Anthony, I would love to have you on any of them that you can make them on. I know we've already been talking about that. And we've had questions about doing a military service, a selective service tour, by the way. So that's something we'll talk about another time.
Oh, roger that. Awesome. Thank you.
And so just a moment here, I'm going to double check my other feeds here. Okay, looks like nothing. Okay. All right, with that said, guys, if you're watching live on Facebook right now or on YouTube, drop a comment in here. I'm going to stay on here for just a couple more minutes, and I'll be happy to go through any part of this or answer any questions you may have. But once again, we're talking about the Dwight D. Eisenhower Memorial just opened up, and I'm mentioning we'll be doing live tours coming up like this, live virtual tours every first and third Wednesday, Whiskey Wednesdays, and I'll be presenting different subjects starting off October 7th with the Veterans Memorials at the National Mall, including the World War II Memorial, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, the Korean War Veterans Memorial, the Disabled Veterans for Life Memorial, and the District of Columbia War Memorial, and talking about some other memorials in the area and upcoming memorials as well. And so we'll be looking forward to that. Other than that, if you have any questions, drop them in there, comments, and we'll be logging off here in a few minutes. Anthony, thanks for joining again.
Oh, sorry. There you go. Thanks. Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I was so close to your house. I almost stopped by for this tour.
You could have. Doors open. So one day we'll have. So and by the way, for those, and I'm gonna, this is gonna be posted later on, so people can go back and see this, even though they're not watching live right now. But we're planning on having. I did a few of these different tours. Some of you have joined them, and it's been learning a new way of doing things. So I've been an in-person tour guide for years, and so doing this on video where I'm looking at a camera has been a new experience. But one of the things we're thinking is I'm going to have friends and guests on to make it a little bit more casual. And okay. Sorry, I'm back.
We see you now.
So you can see me now. Cool. And so learning, figuring out things like that, technical difficulties, but also figuring out good subjects to do and ways to do it. And I'm actually streaming from my bar. Anthony was my first guest in the finished bar, actually. And I say that because, the only person who was here before him was helping to paint it. So this is actually full on tavern here. And Belinda's trying to get me on TV. How do you do it? So if you, let's see, if you go to my YouTube channel, I'm live on there as well. It may be easier to get it from your YouTube link there, Jeff. Alternatively, we can dial into like a Zoom separately here in a moment. We're streaming from a full-on bar here, and once things are a little easier for people to sit down together, we'll actually probably be sitting here at the bar having more of a casual chat as well as we're presenting some of this information as well. And I'm hoping, and we have mutual disabled veterans that we want to have, that we're going to see if we can have them on for the Disabled Veterans for Life Memorial. And I'm hoping to get one of my friends that is a presenter and expert in women's and military history for the National Park Service. We're hoping to have her on board for our women's and military service memorial tour. Okay. Okay, 1 second. I got a question in the comments here. Okay, so I think, so Belinda's just joining. I might actually go through this presentation one more time. You guys can feel free to log off at any point you want. But since Belinda's just joining, I want her to have the opportunity to see this. I know she had signed up for this. So let me get the link
I'm
for you
good.
there, guys.
I'll go get a refill.
All right. That didn't take very long. I told you this would be a short one. The next ones will be longer. I just wanted to give everybody a good first look at the new memorial there and make the announcement we're going to be doing new tours. Okay. Okay, looks like you got it.
Hey, Cody, we're signing out.
All right, thanks for joining, and I look forward to seeing you guys on these again. Again, October 7th, it's going to be 5 p.m. your time. We'll be doing the Veterans Memorials.
That's the one your dad wanted to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just for him.
So, tell you, going by.
Bye, sir.
All right, have a good night, guys.
Okay, we'll see you later. I think I already filled out for that next one.
Cool, excellent.
Just let me know if I did it right.
All right, cool, will do.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Okay, Belinda, are you up now? Drop in the comments, please. I wonder, could you? All right, Belinda, welcome aboard, and Jeff. And so we're doing a test run here a little bit. So I'm going to go through go back through a few things. I'm also checking to see because should be live streaming on, live streaming on tourguidetakes.com as well. So you can actually see me on my website. And yeah, okay. And so I am live streaming here on Facebook, on YouTube, multiple channels here, and we're just going through testing everything. This is a dry run. It's also a first look at the Dwight D. Eisenhower Memorial. The brand new memorial just opened up in Washington, D.C. just a few days ago, and announcing that I will be doing tours coming up first and third Wednesday of every month. It's going to be Whiskey Wednesdays, where we will be having a BYOB tour of various subjects. The subjects will change each time. And starting October 7th with the Veterans Memorial of the National Mall, which will be the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, the World War II Veterans Memorial, the Korean War Veterans Memorial, the Disabled Veterans for Life Memorial, and the District of Columbia War Memorial. We'll also be talking through the various memorials coming up that are planned in the area, and discussing some of the other memorials in the surrounding area, but not going into too much detail about them, as we'll be doing a separate tour for those as well. And so for those that just joined, I see Belinda just logged in. I know you had signed up for this and you were looking to join. So I'm going to go back through this real quick. It's not a lot here. We're not doing a full history lesson on the Eisenhower Memorial. We are doing a quick walkthrough of it, so people can see it that can't make it out here to see the memorial at this moment. And so if you're just joining, stay tuned. You can see the Eisenhower Memorial. So the Eisenhower Memorial just opened up a week ago. It's been a work in progress for 21 years now. They first passed legislation through Congress to get this built in 1999. And it is dedicated to Dwight D. Eisenhower, both the president and the general. And this was done by a very famous artist, Frank Gehry, who designed a lot of buildings that are stainless steel with a lot of curves in them, like the Disney Opera House in Los Angeles. And the original design was intended to showcase a lot about Kansas, his home state, and where he grew up. As you can see, the 3 panels here showcasing scenes from Kansas on all 3 sides, and then depicting giant stone reliefs of Eisenhower the general and Eisenhower the president. There have been some modifications over the years for various reasons, and now we have Dwight D. Eisenhower as a young man looking on to the man he will become as you make your way through the entrance of the Eisenhower Memorial. This is Eisenhower the boy, looking forward to what he will be one day. He's also overlooking his homecoming speech in Abilene, Kansas, June 22nd, 1945. You can see a giant tapestry down one side that has a scene of the cliffs of Normandy. And down your left, you can see 2 columns as well. These showcase Eisenhower's 2 big moments in his history, the president on the far end and the general on this end. So starting off with Eisenhower the general, one of 5 5-star generals in US history. Here in his bronze sculpture, which was done in Italy by an American artist who actually was born in Russia, but he's actually an American citizen. But he sculpted these in Italy because it gave him access to a lot of resources that he needed to make some fine sculptures. And he is giving a speech to the 101st Airborne based off of this photograph of the 101st Airborne before they left for Normandy. This is in southern England. And this gentleman in the back here is Anthony Gonzalez, who's also on my Zoom call here. This is his grandfather. And in the background, you actually have them landing on the beaches of Normandy. You can see the ships over the water in the background of the cliffs, and this is a close-up of the actual ships. And on the back of the speech he gave to Parliament in 1945 in London. And on the opposite end of the memorial, we have Dwight D. Eisenhower, the president, looking over towards Eisenhower, the general. As we enter Dwight D. Eisenhower, the president, the other half, the western half of the memorial. And this is Eisenhower in front of his desk with the Oval Office with an engraving of the world map behind him showing his international reach and his international plans and ideas. And Eisenhower speaking with his cabinet in the Oval Office. On the back, we have 2 speeches on the president's side. This would be his first inaugural address and his farewell address. And then we have the tapestry. This is hard to tell what it is when you're looking up close. These are stainless steel threads that have been woven together, and it's actually in Normandy. And the memorial, every aspect of the memorial changes from day to night. As you can see from the far away view here, the more general view here, daytime and nighttime. Going back and forth. And to give you an idea of the location here, it is right next to the Air and Space Museum on Independence. I'm going to get that backwards every time. Independence Avenue, overlooking the U.S. Capitol and the Library of Congress in the distance. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. For those that have, and for those that are watching this later, this will still be up later, and I'll give a shortened preview as well. But join me Whiskey Wednesdays, first and third Wednesday of each month. And first one's going to be the Veterans Memorials of the National Mall. We'll have a few guests on as well. Tourguidetakes.com or guidedtoursdc.com is available on both websites. The link is posted in the comments here, and I'll make sure it's posted in all the other comments on Facebook as well. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We look forward to seeing you guys on the upcoming tours. Thank you very much, and good night. And Anthony, if you wanted to do a call after this, just let me know, and I'll just hang up and call back.
Yeah, go ahead and call back. I'll be here.
Cool. So I'll just shoot my career back.
Yeah, no problem. All right.